Welcome back to Morning on NTV, the #1 breakfast show in the country. It is World Press Freedom Day, and it goes out to the unscrupulous individuals who would want to deter our work. Yes, let me just tell you right now, verifiably, we will not stop. We will not stop in our resolve to actually acquaint individuals within this country and across the borders with the latest information that they need to know so that they could conquer their lives in that regard. Please, do not intimidate us. We will not stop. All right, today is World Press Freedom Day, and we are talking all things journalism. And to speak to us about this and more, I have Dorothy Mukasa, the Executive Director of Unwanted Witness, which she has a report that was released on the effect of the election internet shutdown on the work of the journalists. Imagine working during that electoral period. January 14th, I was here during the election, but we did not have internet. Do you know how hard it was to disseminate that information, to focus or get your information from another source that was not even verified? So we had so many challenges during that electoral period. Dorothy Mukasa is here to expand more on that and how it affected the work of the journalists. Number two, how it affected the economy and how it continues to affect our livelihoods in that regard. First of all, very good morning, Dorothy Mukasa.
Good morning, Busiku.
You were here during election day and the days after. You saw how hard it was even to access any jurisdiction, but somehow you came through. Tell us what you saw during that election period.
First of all, I give it to the media practitioners of this country. You know, during that time, they went through a lot of hard time, you know, to be able to deliver the information, the little information that we consumed. You know, everyone was relying on the media to be able to know what was going on. But did we know what the media was going through to be able to relay the kind of information that they relayed? It was a hassle, you know. We can't run away from the fact that internet is playing a critical role in the work of the media, you know. But also the fact that media is the eyes and the ears of the public.
Indeed.
Right? So without the media fully functioning, without the media exercising their freedom, you know, all of us are in a blackout. All our rights are trampled upon if we can't have the media functioning. And that happened on the voting day. A very critical period of this country. You know, any democratic country, that period of elections is a period where everybody, you know, should exercise maximum restraint, be it from the state, be it from the individuals who are given power, you know, be it anyone, the citizens.
Indeed, Dorothy.
That's the period everybody should exercise restraint, you know.
But what did we see?
We saw that we did not have information, you know. We did not have information as citizens, because if the media does not have information, we equally do not have that information.
It's like someone blindfolding you, and then they give you a camera and they're like, start shooting.
Exactly.
What are you going to capture? What are you even capturing?
Totally nothing, because internet today is very important, right from planning, as you plan your stories for that day.
Indeed.
The research that you conduct, you know, going out to the field, reaching out to the sources, but also transmitting that information, that timely information that you've gathered to your respective media houses. This wasn't done. You know, we've realized in our report that we are going to launch today at 11.
Indeed.
It's actually titled Journalism Blocked, Information Seized.
I need to read that.
It's very timely because there was total blackout on the media at that particular moment. We've realized that 80% of the journalists that we talked to, the media managers and the editors, have all confirmed that they did not actually effectively cover the elections because there were no means. You know, the timeliness of news is very important. How do you relay information from as far as Karamoja to NTV?
How do you get a correspondent story from Ajumani district from Gulu? Will they have to drive all the way to bring that story that is going to air on NTV at 1?
And by the time it gets here,
what time they get here?
The essence of media is the timeliness nature of how they relay information.
Indeed.
But also what sort of information, the credibility of that information. You just mentioned there was information picked from different sources.
Indeed.
You know, there was no means of verifying that sort of information. And this would have been done by the media, you know. Results that was coming in from different parts of the region. How do you verify that information? You know, if you're getting from a single source that you can't verify, this is very important. And I like the fact that we as the media practitioners and advocates of free media, you know, we shouldn't give up. We shouldn't relent. It's very important to have news. An informed society is a very it's a liberal society. We need to have a society that is informed, especially in times where information is very, very critical. Election period is a time where information is very critical.
Yes.
There was a lot of misinformation. What goes around, you know? You can't manage misinformation by shutting down the media. Then you're spreading it more.
Indeed.
Because people within their circles will circulate this information. There will be no way of verifying this information. At the end of the day, you know, it can lead to uprising.
Indeed.
You know, even when they think social media is a cause of uprising. But blockage of internet is another source of...
Blockage of information.
Yes. It's a source of uprising, you know, when people don't have adequate and verifiable information. It can lead to so many harm. So, and trust me, if there was, if we had an opportunity to have the court processes, the internet, the lack of information would be one of the central arguments in the courts, because it's very important globally. You need...
Dorothy Mukasa, I do not understand why we were gagged during that election period, because journalists are very pivotal in actually bringing about normalcy in any given jurisdiction. I haven't seen a single journalist go on the air and say, please come out and protest. Please come out and do this. We need to remove this government. No. It's always been, we need peace. We need to do this and that. We need to work with the government. We need to find a harmonized way of resolving our differences. But then we want to know, why was there an internet shutdown on people who are actually supposed to help government spread this information of peace and dialogue? Was it another avenue, okay, institute a blackout so that we could do our unscrupulous activities when Big Brother is not watching? Was that what really happened?
I think it's the two reasons that I think government based on. First of all, is unfounded insecurity, you know. People thinking that internet, you know, is a source of uprising, like I said.
Oh, not on the part of the journalists, but the citizens.
The citizens,
okay.
You know. I think the journalists were victims of circumstances. Just you want to black out everybody, and then the media is in there, you know, not knowing that even blacking out yourself, because the media helps you to transmit the credible information that you want to get people to have, you know. And then the other, like you mentioned, you know, it's around, okay, let's do our thing, you know, because we also saw what came out after the internet was restored. You know, what happened, the different information that came out. Just imagine that there was internet, how much information would be coming out from instant.
There would have been chaos, because after the election, when the internet was resumed, you had all these people posting information seeming to indicate that Robert Chagulanyi was actually winning that election or had won the election. So meaning there would have been a lot of chaos during election day. So does that justify the internet shutdown?
No, I don't think there would be a lot of chaos because of internet, you know, fueling this chaos. In other words, it would be very transparent, you know, because you don't work in the darkness and then you expect people to trust you, you know. Let's have the information that flows. Then there's government in this country and there are so many agencies that are supposed to come out and verify, give either the right information, you know. Why should we kick people out of their jobs? They're different, the Ministry of Information, you know, the media center, the different government agencies, the spokespersons of the different security agencies, they're supposed to come out and counter this information if it's really wrong. Give the right information to the public. Otherwise, blocking the flow of information is not a solution at all for the chaos. Otherwise, I think that is not right, that there will be chaos. That whoever thinks that and preaches this ideology that there would be chaos, I think just wants to justify a wrong.
But they talk about the insurrection. Did it justify the internet shutdown? They talk about the insurrection, that people wanted to burn down the country using the internet to actually cause protests among different pockets of this country.
No, those are just allegations that have not been verified.
I see.
You know, I mean, we've had all these allegations over and over during elections. These allegations come out, and these are either put out to instigate fear among the citizens, not to either speak
or to justify,
or come out or justify the actions that are really not legally justifiable. Because internet shutdown is not justifiable by law. You can't deny people information, yet you have an obligation to give up people information.
I see. So you've given us the effect on the journalists' work, but what was the compounded effect of this internet shutdown on the whole economy?
We are still struggling as a country with the effects of the shutdown economically, okay? Because we even know right now, if you're Ugandan and you're using VPN, you're doing it illegally, you know? I mean, Facebook is blocked.
Funny thing is, during the onset of the shutdown, it was the ministers, the MPs who were using VPN to post on Facebook and Twitter. That got me thinking,
so
okay,
ironical.
If the leaders themselves are using VPN, so whom are they going to arrest for using the same?
Exactly. And that also shows you that they appreciate the importance of internet.
Indeed.
You know, if you can, as a minister, block and then go behind the blockage and be able to sneak in.
Indeed.
You know, I think it also justifies that they appreciate that internet is important. But what leads to the blockage?
Indeed.
You know, they should work at issues that lead to the blockage. Let's have guidelines. But also you ask the effect of this shutdown
on
to
the
entire economy. You know, today internet is a factor of production. For any investor today to come into a country, you know, besides the land, you know, the incentives, the other incentives that the government gives, you know, the loans, it should be the internet as well. It's a fact of production. You can't woo investors in a country that is known for shutting down the internet, because this business needs to thrive on the internet.
And of course, how will the investor reach the customer in Gulu if they are set up in Kampala? Of course, this investor will be like, no, this is not a conducive environment for business.
Exactly. So government should consider internet as a factor of production today.
I see.
You know, it's very important for them to realize that without internet, that the investors, the economy want to grow, the third world, the middle income status, you know, will not be attained without technology. We need to understand that. And therefore, whatever happened, the shutdown that's still going on with Facebook, because many people use Facebook in this country, and for business, for innovation, you know, for marketing, for communication, for all sorts of stuff, you know. All this that's going on is affecting the economy. You know, the tax that they put on on data is another one.
The 12%.
The 12% is another one that's going to really impact on how government's revenue is generated.
But Dorothy Mukasa, what does that say about our planners in this country? You have the same leaders who came out and said, well, the onset of the pandemic won't allow us to have gatherings. So you saw what happened to the political meetings and so forth. They had to be cut down. And then they told us because of the pandemic, you have to maximize the use of the internet to actually talk to your customers. And then the same people put a 12% levy on the internet. Is it poor planning?
I wouldn't call it poor planning, but I think the interests are really different from serving public, from what the public desires, you know. They're so much detached from the public, you know, and then they're driven by the motive of, okay, how can we control? It's more of controlling the public, you know, rather than, you know, serving what the interest of the public is.
Controlling the public.
Oh, yeah, because if everybody is online because of COVID.
I see.
Even right now, without the 12% addition levy, people are finding it hard, you know, to meet the cost of their children to learn on using the internet. People are finding it hard to market their produce online because that internet is very high, but also the connectivity is extremely slow, you know.
And indeed, you touched on a very important subject, long-distance learning. The learners, how will they be able to study?
How will they? You know, government recently, I think beginning of this year, the Ministry of ICT announced that they're going to give out iPads to low-income earners to be able to learn online. I mean, you just look at how things are flowing.
They promised us TVs and radios. They did not materialize. How will the iPads come through?
And then they're adding in the cost, they're increasing the cost of internet. And you wonder what is it really that this country, where are we going as a country? What are our leaders doing? And how are they, whose interests are they really serving, right? I think there's a problem, a big problem. And it's not about not knowing what to do, because you have the most intelligent guys in this country.
Yes.
You know, it's an issue of whose interests are we serving as a country? Whose interests are we serving as leaders? All right.
Let's talk about recommendations in your report that were highlighted. Number one, on the issue of journalists.
One of the key recommendations the report highlights is the institution of guidelines when it comes to internet shutdown.
Yes.
Okay? We cannot just wake up one morning and see the internet off. I mean, that's not democratic.
Indeed.
We need to have guidelines set by Parliament for us to know as citizens, to be aware that if there's any problem, this is how it goes. You know, if there's any need to shut down the internet, these principles, the necessity, the proportionate, and the legality principles have to be followed.
Indeed.
You know, for any internet to be shut down. It's very important. But also considering internet as a lifeline for Ugandans today, you know, we need to appreciate that internet is a lifeline for every Ugandan today, be it for the economy, be it for an individual Ugandan, be it for institutions, be it for government as well. You know, it's a lifeline. We can no longer live without the internet. So it's very important that government comes up with the guidelines to ensure that people know that internet is supposed to be limited in this process. We know that it's not, these rights are not absolute, but then there should be guidelines, and these guidelines should be informed by the law.
Indeed. And the recommendations, that was number 1 to journalists, number 2 government.
You know, that was government.
That wasn't it. I wanted
coming up with guidelines.
Yeah.
Coming up with guidelines. Number 2 to journalists. I think the journalists as well need to be advocates of free internet, right?
Indeed.
Because without internet, we realize that it's part of our work as media. You know, without the internet, there's a lot that goes around. You know, our role of informing, of providing timely, credible information is really trumped on when it comes to internet shutdown. So we need to be advocates of internet shutdown, because even in our report we realize that all online publishers were off. So all Ugandans who are delivering information via internet as their primary source of information delivery, they're all cut off.
It seems it was this number 1 target of the government. They said they were trying to check the citizen journalist who does not verify their information. They just spread it all over the internet.
But I think government accusing and putting blame on citizens is running out from their obligation.
Indeed.
They're supposed to counter and provide the alternative, the credible information, rather than running away and criminalizing the people that do their best to be able to deliver some information to the people.
Dorothy Mukasa, thank you very much for having made the time to speak to us right here on Morning at NTV. She's from Unwanted Witness. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, of